hasn't quite recovered the stigma, I think, in some circles.
Well, The Sopranos don't help when you're life imitating or art imitating life.
Sopranos aside, what's fact, not fiction, is that the garbage business is expensive. New trucks start at $250,000 each, and New York City's sanitation department needs 1,500 of them. It's just part of their annual budget, $1.3 billion.
They have to pay us. They have to pay for the upkeep of the trucks. They have to pay for gas, tolls, which a lot of people don't realize. They throw it to the curb. They come home, it's gone. Where'd it go? They don't care.
They don't know.
Nobody knows.
Like it was magic.
Knows. Like it was magic.
For 53 years, all of New York City's trash, 3 million tons a year, was hauled here, the Fresh Kills landfill, just across from Manhattan on Staten Island. It was the largest landfill in the world until it closed in 2001. The next year, upon taking office, Sanitation Commissioner John Doherty was presented with a monumental problem: where to put all that garbage, leaving him no option but to send it packing.
So landfilling is very cheap in many places. At a facility here, this goes as far as South Carolina on train.
Right.
It's a hell of a distance to drive a lot of garbage.
Traveling trash is not unique to New York City. You'll find it on the move across the continent, shipped from communities with little space to places that are wide open and willing to take it for a fee. You may not know that the truck on the highway next to you is filled with New York's garbage, but researchers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology do.
Trash has such a big impact on our lives, and we wanted to study and look at how, in detail, do things move throughout the system.
Asaf Biederman and Dietmar Offenhuber helped develop MIT's Trash Track program. In 2009, they put hundreds of tracking devices on pieces of garbage from New York and Seattle.
It's a little bit like a small cell phone, so it registers its location and sends back a text message.
Basically, like a teenager, it sends you a text. Their goal, to chart how far trash traveled before reaching a landfill or recycling center, to make the process more cost-effective.
We can start asking, is this system designed optimally? Is there something we can do to make it better?
New York City could use that advice. Exporting trash costs the city $330 million a year, 1/4 of sanitation's budget. Some heading to nearby New Jersey, or hundreds of miles to Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and South Carolina. So is this madness, or is this all you got right now?
No, this is the technology that is available right now from an environmental standpoint. This is it. How we'll handle it over the next 30 years is still questionable.
New York City is spending millions to get rid of garbage. Up next, how other towns are making millions taking it in at a cost.
What is being put in there? It's always concerned everyone.
And China, a world superpower being suffocated by trash. We visit a country in crisis. Later on Trash Inc., The Secret Life of Garbage. Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world. Here on the city's famous strip, dreams are made, fortunes are won and lost, and the garbage just keeps on coming.
25 tons of trash coming out of that truck right now. It's a garbage explosion. It has to go somewhere. In Las Vegas's case, it comes here.
Here is the Apex landfill, owned and operated by Republic Services, the industry's #2 player. The size of 2,000 football fields, it is the largest landfill in the country.
This is about 50 million tons of waste.
So somebody might look at this and say, what trash? Where's the trash?
Right? That's the whole idea.
Mark Klinker, the landfill's general manager, and I are standing on it. At 11 a.m., it is already 100 degrees when he brings us to a vast, simmering field of ripening garbage.
This is, a normal
day at Apex Landfill. What happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas. It comes here. It comes here.
And in a landfill, trash means cash. It comes in the form of a tipping fee, a price per ton every time a truck comes in and tips its garbage out. Here at Apex, that means 8,000 tons of trash, about $160,000 of revenue every day.
And the trash itself is kind of soft, right? It's kind of spongy.
It is. It is. Initially, this machine rolls over it and compacts it, much like you do at home when you push down in the can, except we're doing it with a 120,000 pound machine.
Why is it so important to chop it up and to compact it like that?
From an environmental standpoint, the denser I can get the waste, the less settling I'll have, the more control I'll have of the liquids and of the gas. And from a financial standpoint, the more waste I can get in that space, the more profitable these facilities are.
40 years ago, landfills were simple holes in the ground, old-fashioned town dumps scattered across the country. Today, they're highly engineered facilities, the size and scale of small mountains, with budgets to match the cost of creating, constructing, operating, and closing a landfill is $1 million per acre. A large part of that is spent to protect the environment and the people who might live nearby.
Our biggest expense in construction, it goes into the liner.
The liner, giant sheets of plastic, clay, and dirt, designed to keep the garbage from seeping out and polluting the groundwater supply. Federal law has required liners in all landfills across the U.S. since 1976.
So this is the bathtub. This is the lining of the bathtub.
This is the lining of the bathtub. This should last forever.
And you're not kidding when you say that.
No.
But not everyone is so confident. Rick Hind is legislative director for Greenpeace. He says that landfills are just a band-aid on a broken system.
Some have argued that a landfill, with their sophisticated liners and stiff regulation, is perhaps the best form of civil engineering you'll find anywhere. You're saying there's still a risk.
Absolutely. The EPA and every expert will admit that every landfill will eventually leak.
If that's true, why do we not hear about communities' groundwater being contaminated on a monthly basis?
It can be a slow process, but it's just a matter of time, and I would say that many of them are leaking and they're just not aware of it.
There are some 2,300 landfills across the country, and while most towns ship garbage out, some agree to take it in, and the cash that comes with it, a windfall that can come at a cost.
That area where the trees stop.
That's where the landfill bottom is.
Michael Keller is a longtime resident of Fox Township, Pennsylvania, a working-class town of about 4,000. 7 miles from the Little League field, just off Main Street, is the Green Tree Landfill, owned by a French company, Veolia, a growing mountain of garbage that is beginning to dwarf the landscape around it.
We used to refer to it as a mountain of waste, and it literally is going to be a mountain.
A township supervisor, Keller has been living less than a mile from the landfill since it opened in 1987. From day one, he helped lead a movement to keep it out of his neighborhood.
This township did not raise its hand and say this is the greatest thing, bring it on. We didn't have an option. Once that first permit was issued, it was a done deal.
Veolia would not let us film at its landfill, nor tell us its tipping fees. But we learned that the company pays Fox Township $3 per ton for out-of-state hauls like New York City's, which comes from 400 miles away. As Keller is quick to acknowledge, that has meant big money for Fox Township, $2.5 million a year, 1/2 of its annual budget.
Every organization in our township has been positively affected by the money. The fire hall's got some equipment. We've done a lot of road work. And a traffic light. That was the first one.
So the additional incremental benefits that the town receives, is it worth it for the potential environmental risks that you face every day?
That's a difficult question to answer because you have two perspectives there. You have the immediate perspective. Doesn't appear to be any immediate risk. But in the long term, we don't know.
Long term, to Barbara Ron Quagliani, means living with uncertainty about the tap water, the health of his neighbors, and the well-being of his hometown.
These are the latest and greatest things to take care of the garbage. But down the road, it's not been 100% proven. What is being put in there? It's always a concern to everybody. And I think these guys, well, a couple of years ago, Randy, that they're supposed to bring in
Some low-level radioactive ash.
and I say our supervisors really stood up for us at the time, and they didn't bring it in, which I don't want to see nothing like that.
Polluting the landscape all around it, and it's one of hundreds in a city that's choking on its own trash.
Entering one is a huge shock to the system. The sheer size, scale, and smell of rotting trash and human waste that's been sitting in 95-degree heat for days. All of it mixed with tremendous sadness for the people who call it their home.
Over there where the pig
And carpets. All this takes trash out of the waste stream and puts it into the revenue stream.
Understanding how do we take that waste and turn it into a valuable resource.
David Steiner is Waste Management's CEO. Even though the word waste is branded all over their properties, Steiner sees it as anything but.
We decided to take a look at the materials that we collect every day. And we saw that if we could separate them, we could sell the waste that we pick up every day for about $10 billion. Now, we're about a $13 billion company, so that's almost double our revenue. That's when we realized there's value in this material.
You even use the word materials. Probably more often than you use the word waste, right?
Well, if it's waste, it doesn't have value, right? And so we want to take it and create value.
In the last 10 years, Waste Management has expanded its energy portfolio. In 2009, they poured millions into Terrebonne, a Texas-based startup that is turning organics, yard waste, and discarded food into high-octane gasoline for cars. Waste Management is also heavily invested in waste-to-energy plants. Garbage is hauled in and dumped, then moved from the tipping floor by Giant Claw into furnaces. There it is burned, creating steam that is captured and turned into electricity. This process, Waste Management believes, will play a key part in solving China's garbage crisis. In 2010, they bought a piece of a Shanghai company that plans to build waste-to-energy plants throughout the country. Steiner would like to produce power and profits at every turn.
Just to put it in perspective, the energy that we've created using waste over the last 30 years has saved 150 million barrels of oil. That's what it's all about. It's about looking at a business model that is good for the environment, but still makes us more money.
One of the biggest moneymakers in the waste game is recycling, an opportunity to recover, then resell items from the trash that might otherwise go to a landfill.
About 80% of what we throw away as a nation is recyclable. Cardboard, paper, glass, and plastic. But only 28% actually gets recycled. And that's a growing problem for landfills and for companies that rely on those materials to make money.
It's hard to believe that a plastic bottle that we could possibly drink water out of is